What's up, guys? Today I'm going to teach you my method for teaching any dog any command. The process is the same regardless of what it is you're trying to teach. Today we're going to be teaching a young husky puppy how to sit up from and down on command. Let's go. There is a difference, a big difference, between being able to get your dog into a command or into a position and actually teaching them to be able to pick out that verbal command from all the background noise that's always happening on a day-to-day basis. There's a difference between getting your dog to do it and teaching them, or training them, if you will, how to do it on command. What happens is if you only have a rudimentary understanding of, or if your dog only has a rudimentary understanding of what it is that you want them to do. So for example, a lot of people, when they tell their dog to lay down, they point towards the ground. It is highly likely that that dog views the point more as the command than the actual word down. That is because dogs are extremely visual creatures. They communicate with each other almost exclusively through body language. Like vocalization is a small part of how they talk to each other. So they're really good at picking out those physical prompts, and they prefer them because it requires less brain power. If you want to make sure that they know the word, and you need to, because 90% of the time when you need your dog to listen to you and you want to give them a command, they're not going to be sitting pretty in front of you waiting for the next command. They're going to be running that way or doing some kind of nonsense that's going to get them into trouble, and you need them to pick out that word and immediately respond to it. So without going through this process, you don't know how well your dog actually understands that command. And if they just have that basic elementary level understanding of it, then what happens when the first time you have company come over, or you're trying to walk by a couple barking dogs on the road, and you're yelling at them to sit or to come to you or whatever, and they are already at this heightened state of stimulation mentally, they can't focus. It's a highly difficult situation, and they can't even do the command solidly and reliably when there's no distractions. So before we put them in harder situations, we want to teach them extremely thoroughly what it is we want them to do.
Step in teaching a dog a sit or down or really any command is to have an effective and consistent way to get them into the position you need them to ultimately be in. Here we're working on sitting up from and down with Red here, the husky puppy. You'll see here I'm really just guiding him, or driving him, if you will, with the food. So I want him to be able to follow the food into a sit if my hand goes up, into a down if my hand goes down, and then once he's laying in a down, back up into a sit. This is ultimately going to become what we call help. The ultimate goal here is to teach him to sit up from a down position with just the verbal command sit. Right now, he doesn't know that. If I just try to start working on that, I'm just going to frustrate myself. I'm going to frustrate him. I don't have an effective way to get him to sit up from and down. He has to physically be able to do the thing first, right? So all I'm doing is focusing on the basic skill of being able to follow the food. You'll see, I'll use a little bit of leash pressure here and there. He has also been conditioned to respond to that, but the hand gesture up, or the food lure, following the food lure up and down into both commands, in this instance is what you would call a prompt. I'm prompting him to go into a sit, I'm prompting him to go into a down. Whenever possible, before I try to teach a dog to respond to the command just with the verbal command, I like to have at least two different ways to get them or help them into the correct position. So teaching them to respond to leash pressure, in this case, without the lure, without any other help, they feel that pressure up, they turn that pressure off by going the same direction as it, and then once they get into a sit, boom, I say yes, you get your food. It's a very effective secondary way to help them if you don't have food, or if you have a dog that is too obsessed with food and can't focus, sometimes that's a more clear and effective way to communicate to them what it is you want them to do.
Yes.
The next step here is to fade and ultimately remove the lure and the help. So I want to be able to give the command without having to use the leash pressure, without having to lure him into position. Red here is a pretty quick dog, so I didn't have to do a lot of fading. I didn't have to gradually decrease the amount of help. Occasionally I would have to use a little bit of leash pressure or a little bit of a lure, but the procedure here is to give the command first and then wait. Sometimes I'll give the command 2, even 3 times. We're not looking for perfection, we're looking for recognition of the word. So I will say sit, I'll give him a chance to respond.
Down.
If it's clear he's not going to, I can always go back and revert to a little bit of help. I can put some leash pressure on him straight up, or I can lure him up with the food. I've already proven to him and me that we can work the command that way. But what I want is for him to hear the word, pop up into a sit, and then be able to reward that effort that he gave. So as soon as he pops up into a sit, I say yes, he gets his reward, and then we rinse and repeat. I'm not looking for 100% perfection here. Again, I'm looking for how well he recognizes the command. Does it make sense to him? Does he know what he needs to do in order to get that reward? We will build on this a lot later on. But if they don't have this deep understanding of what is expected when they hear the word, and if I can't do it right here in this living room where there's no distractions, it's not difficult, it's just me and him, I'm the only game in town, I'm the only one with the treats here. If I cannot do it here, how in the world will I expect him, or can I expect him, to perform in any reliable sense later down the road, outside, off leash, around distractions, like he's ultimately going to be able to do? It starts here. It starts right now. This is the foundation of everything, is teaching them what to do before I ever even think about teaching them what not to do.
Yes, there you go, what a good boy.